And good evening once again, and welcome to the Shadow Gallery. I am, as always, your host, James Donnelly. And hey, I know it's been a long time, but welcome once again to this week's edition of New Comics, bitches! So it has been a long time. So let's get this party started right. And let's dive right into some comics. Because we've got a lot to go over this week. Got a lot of books. And they're all good. Which is, it's always great to have a week where, well, some of them are just flat out great. It's always great to have a week where you have a bunch of great, a number of great books, and everything is well done, entertaining, and keeps you coming back for a little bit more. So let's get on with it, shall we? Now, obviously, there are usually more things that, well, there's one. Okay, this week I do have to preface, there is one issue that I would normally be talking about, but I'm not. And that is Remender and Romita Jr.'s Captain America, because I have dropped that like a hot fucking brick. It is... I was reading some of it in the shop, and I'm just like, I don't like this. I don't like the way this feels. I don't particularly like the way it looks. I don't like where it's going. So it's way too out there. So this is literally, it's the first issue of Captain America that I haven't picked up in I don't know how many years. I mean, it's literally been since pretty much I started reading Brubaker's run on the book, and then buying all the old trades and everything like that, and catching up. So I don't know how many years that's been, but it's been a while. So another book that I did not pick up this week because my comics book store did not get it, and they don't have it on Comixology, is the Black Beetle, Francesco Francavilla's new pulp character. That I really want to read because I hear it's really good. But sadly, wasn't there at the shop, and it's not on Comixology, so I will have to tweet him about that and find out what's up with that. So anyway, let's get into the books that I have been reading, do read, and so on and so forth. So I would have done, obviously, number one of this, but I didn't because of the whole computer issue and so on and so forth. So I decided to just kind of bring this all to this, start this up here with New Avengers number 2. Now, this is Hickman's second Avengers title. He is writing the flagship Avengers title, and he's also writing this title. Now, basically what we have here, just in a short summation here, is that we have what seems to be at first blush, seems to be Black Panther really taking center stage in a book again, which is really cool because I know that I haven't read a lot of Black Panther in the past, but Miggs, who I haven't seen, you may know him as Hell is for Blogs. I haven't seen many tweets or messages from in quite some time on one of my videos. He sent me all of the David Liss run on Black Panther, and it was awesome. I loved it. So it really attached me again to that character. So he's bringing him out, and this is basically the Illuminati-based Avengers, if you will. We have, the Black Panther, and we have Reed Richards, and we have Tony Stark, and we have Black Bolt, and we have people that I'm Namor, and well, Captain America is there. I keep thinking that there's somebody that I'm leaving, or Doctor Strange. And this is basically Hickman is doing kind of his weird science stuff on the Avengers title right now, on the primary Avengers title, but for right now we have Hickman doing his super science stuff with this group, because obviously this is like, these are the great thinkers of the Marvel Universe. Of course, these are also the arrogant assholes that decided that they were going to send, they were going to basically all team up together and, kind of help solve some of the world's problems and so on and so forth. Of course, Black Panther was the only one to not join, and now here he is, of course, asking for all of their help. Because they have a super science problem. And that is that this emissary, if you will, from a parallel Earth has, calling herself the Black Swan, has appeared in Wakanda and has basically shown very briefly another Earth that she blows to Kingdom Come. Now, it does not affect, at least immediately, this Earth that we're on in the 616 universe, but as the other ones get involved, Reed Richards kind of specifically lays out a plan of what Black Swan has kind of brought to bear, is that basically everything dies. It's the natural order of things. Even this Earth, will die. Eventually, the solar system will die. But that is something that he accepts. But the accelerated, destruction of the planet is something that he will not abide. And so what we have is, when this Earth was destroyed, it may start a chain reaction of parallel Earths, each being destroyed in parallel dimensions, that might end up affecting and ultimately destroying the Earth that we're on. So it is up to this group of basically the Illuminati, obviously missing Charles Xavier, and also we have Captain America, because they have a potential solution, and it involves using the Infinity Gauntlet, because when it was broken up, when they did defeat Thanos, it was, they split the Infinity Gems amongst themselves to keep them all safe but separate. Black Panther's not too happy about this plan, and he is much, much less happy about having to deal with Namor, who is, of course, acting the huge prick throughout this whole book. Which, he's on Wakandan soil. And, of course, as, one of the Phoenix Five, he did kill many, many, many Wakandans. And this is something that Black Panther has kind of made a certain amount of peace with, because he basically has, in this issue, he basically states his intention that as soon as we've solved this problem, that I'm going to kill you, he says to Namor. And so Cap's not too down with this plan either. But, because they don't kill. That's not their place. That's not what they do. That's not what they're about. But, at the end of this issue, we have this moment with T'Challa and Reed. And Reed is saying, he respects life. He would never, want to kill another living being. but this particular situation may demand that they destroy another Earth. And so, I mean, so just from this whole issue, much better than the first. The first was just way too kind of, it was too singular. It was too, it was also kind of boring, frankly. But, I mean, this is very much in Hickman's wheelhouse. He loves the super science. He loves getting the big ideas out there. And he loves to put heroes in morally compromising positions. So, this is something that I think that Hickman, once he really gets going with this is going to be another one of his really great titles. It's Steve Epting doing some incredible art here on this issue, as Steve Epting is wont to do. And what I also really admire about this particular iteration of the Avengers is it really seems like it's the Avengers that we started out with back in the 60s. Is a bunch of people together on a team. None of them should be together, really. Only maybe one or two of them have something in common, but the rest of them, they're all very alien, foreign to one another. So there is going to be, of course, a lot of infighting. There's going to be a lot of disagreements. There's going to be, it's going to make for some really excellent character moves. And this new character of the Black Swan is also really interesting, too, because she seems to have her own arc, which seems to be sort of slowly developing here. But we see that she has, there's some kind of remorse that she has about, the wheel. And how the wheel does not serve the weak, and which is why she was forced to destroy the other Earth. And so, I mean, this is making for some very interesting reading. Again, it's a little too expository. I wasn't, a huge fan of that. But, like I said, when Hickman gets on a roll with this book, which I believe he eventually will, this will be a very strong comic. So it's a 4 out of 5 for New Avengers #2, but it's a solid 4 out of 5. All New X-Men #6. If you're not reading this, please start, because this is a really, really good book. Again, I did not get to review issue 5, and I did want to talk about the new look for Beast for a bit. We do have. Now, I don't know if this is just temporary or if it's going to be something that continues, because I don't read solicitations. I try to keep, kind of as far away from a lot of that stuff as possible, which is why when people announce, like, okay, well, this person's going to be working on this book and this person's going to be working on that book, it's a big surprise and it's really great. Like when I heard that Francesco Francavilla is going to be doing at least one, possibly more issues of Hawkeye. I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to be awesome. And people like Walt Simonson coming on to another book that I'll be talking about in a minute. We had Stuart Immonen, or Immonen, however you pronounce his name, doing the art for the first 5 issues, and now we have David Marquez, who is doing such a great job over on Ultimate Spider-Man. Just doing some beautiful work there. Now Sarah Pichelli has kind of come back to that, so I don't know if Marquez is taking over this book or if it's just kind of a interim spot. But anyway, this issue we have some really interesting questions that are brought up. First off and the one that seems to be most on my mind is this the X-Men from the 1960s? Is this the original, is this maybe a parallel universe X-Men team, this, the young X-Men that are brought into this era? Because there is a sequence in this book in which Cyclops goes to a convenience store, and he wants to get a map, and the woman behind the counter is like, well, doesn't your phone have a map? And he's asking questions about bottled water and certain things. It's just like he doesn't, $5 for a magazine, and everything seems so foreign to him. When if this is just the Cyclops that is in his teens that later grows up. I mean, this because we're talking maybe at most 15 to 20 years later where we are right now. I don't even believe it's that much, because he's probably what 16 or 17 or 18 years old here, and if he's in his mid 30s now, it would be really hard to reconcile how much has changed. But I mean, admittedly, a lot has changed. So I mean, I guess it's maybe not as far fetched, but I would actually really dig it if this was the 60s X-Men. But you have Jean Grey, of course. She's really wrestling with the gaining the power of telepathy very early on, much earlier than she should have, or would have had she stayed in her own time. And and Kitty Pryde is kind of helping her through that. And we have Angel, who seems just he feels very out of place. He's the only one, of course, that didn't want to go at all. But he's part of the team, so he went with, and he wants to see what has become of him, because everybody else kind of knows what's become of them, but he hasn't met himself yet, his future self. And of course, in this issue, he finally does. And of course, it's kind of the not quite. I won't say evangelical, but this whole kind of new Angel with this kind of whole new lease on life type of feeling, and he looks angelic, and he has, of course, the metal wings, which is a little unsettling for the young Warren. But my favorite moment in this whole book, I have two favorite moments in this issue. One of them is there's a panel that Marquez draws in which, there's a sequence that he draws that is put in where Cyclops, he just wants to find out what the fuck is going on out in the world, so hence his visit to the convenience store. And to get there, he actually steals Wolverine's motorcycle. It's more of a borrow than a steal, really, because he's going to bring it back. But Wolverine is so incensed by this that there's a panel where he's so angry that he's actually popped his claws through the table that he's sitting at, just kind of eating his lunch. And it was such a really awesome detail for Marquez to put in there. And it works beautifully for, of course, the character of Logan. So, and then, of course, my other favorite moment being when because Cyclops is relatively certain that he's going to be going back to his time at some point in the not-too-distant future. So when Wolverine kind of confronts him at the convenience store, kind of throws him out into the street, he kind of tests his optic blasts on Wolverine. Because, of course, Wolverine, not very happy to see any Scott Summers, young or old. So interesting. It was just a fun moment, because me, I love Cyclops. I like Wolverine, but I always thought Wolverine was way too overexposed. So to see Cyclops, give a little bit of the smackdown to Wolverine is always a nice thing for me, which is one of the reasons I love the first issue of Astonishing X-Men by Whedon and Cassaday so much, is because you have that moment where you have the two of them kind of fighting. That healing factor is about to come in really handy. I mean, it's one of my favorite lines from that run of Astonishing X-Men. But anyway, we have Krakoa burping. We have one of the things, and this is something that doesn't get talked about a lot. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, but most artists that I've seen over the years tend to draw Storm basically as I'm going to try to put this as best as I can to not make it sound insulting, but she basically has always kind of looked like a kind of a white woman with, you know, black skin drawn, you know, colored onto her. And, you know, this is one of the few examples in which, you know, David Marquez actually makes her look like she's African. I mean, because you know, that's where she's from. Again, you know, this is not me trying to racially classify or anything like that, but it's always something that, until it's pointed out to you, it does seem like, wow, you know, you know, because I did see something in Comics Alliance a couple weeks back, or something like that. It was a drawing of Storm, and she looked very African, and it was like, yeah, it's interesting. Not a lot of artists really do that. They just seem to kind of, you know, draw her as they would, you know, any other woman, and not give her any interesting kind of, you know, ethnic diverse look to her, other than the color of her skin. So it was I just thought that was a really nice detail that Marquez threw in. So again, I'm gonna move on from there. It's just, you know, I mean, this book is so good because, you know, just it's really entertaining. First of all, it's really well written. Bendis is doing a terrific job with the series so far. Has yet to drop the ball at all, and is just really kind of kept, you know, on a really good tack with a really good pace. Each issue is very very well done. So I've been very pleased with this series so far. This is probably, of all of the kind of Marvel Now books, this has been probably my favorite. Very solid 4.5 out of 5 for All New X-Men #6. Indestructible Hulk #3. Now we're going to talk about. I knew I was going to talk about this. Obviously, you knew I was going to talk about it from what I said before about Walt Simonson. This issue has probably one of my favorite Mark Waid bits of writing ever, which is the spontaneous smell of urine as Bruce Banner turns into the Hulk, when the people around him, of course, have no idea that it is Bruce Banner and he's about to turn into the Hulk. Because basically what we have in this issue is that you know, Banner has been basically sent kind of as a Christmas surprise, if you will, by S.H.I.E.L.D. to AIM to fight, you know, as, you know, or a surprise WMD to basically face off against. I'm not sure if it's a Silver or more Bronze Age type of villain. It seems more kind of a Bronze Age type of villain, the Quintronic Man. You know, kind of a Voltron-esque robot, if you will, that was designed for space exploration, but of course is being used by AIM for evil gains. And we have, you know, basically, you know, this guy gets kidnapped by AIM, and of course they have no idea that it's Bruce Banner. So, surprise! And so S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of drops in, grabs, you know, all kind of the, you know, the data banks and everything like that AIM has, and, you know, they're all kind of, you know, really happy that, you know, Hulk has, that, you know, you just kind of drop a Hulk bomb in, and, you know, that takes care of the rest of the mess, makes cleanup really easy. But of course, you know, this does happen to be by an active volcano, which the Hulk does get thrown in by the Quintronic Man, or by the one pilot left of the Quintronic Man, who is the other decomposed bodies of the Quintronic Man are actually just lying in there, but he's working off of like their psionic decay, if you will. This you know, Colin 23, and just. And, you know, of course, Hulk gets thrown into that volcano and gets a teensy-weensy bit singed. But also, you know, they are fielding, S.H.I.E.L.D. is fielding applicants for people who can be Banner's assistant. They're fielding 5 of them. One of them, at the very least, one of them is in prison, in Australia, for what we don't know. Um, but you know, they're trying to narrow it down to one, and Banner's just like, what the hell, just hire all 5. And then Maria Hill, of course, brings in Rob, which is, you know, robotic, recording observation bot. And it's something that Bruce does not want following him. And she says, well, it's non-negotiable. And in the next issue, we're probably going to meet Rob 2.0, because the first Rob doesn't last very long. It's just such a great ending to this book, because it just made me laugh hard. Just when you see at the very end, it says next Rob 2.0, after we see what happens to Rob. But you know, I mean, just a terrifically written issue. But of course, again, this is where I am starting to kind of get in lockstep with some of my other brethren here on YouTube and our comic book community, where the art from Leinil Yu is just not holding up. It's just not. I mean, there was, you know, even in the, you know, the what should be like kind of the ultimate moment of the book, which is the Hulk resurfacing from the volcano to rip open the Quintronic man's you know, armor and everything like that, and just kind of have him, you know, basically get, you know, all the hot lava in there too, looks really bad. I mean, it's so liney, it's so, you know, every single muscle on the body can be seen. I mean, it's just, you know, in the face and the eyes and the ears and everything like that. And it's just like, tone it down, man. Make it a little bit, you know, more something. Make it look better. Because it's funny, because I am generally a fan of Leinil Yu's art, but for whatever reason, this book just does not look good. And I've kind of been arguing pro his work kind of from the beginning, but this issue, yes, I am really starting to see the chinks in the armor for Leinil Yu. So when Walt Simonson comes on this book, this is going to be pretty damn near perfect. However long that is going to last, I have no idea, but again, it'll be great to see Walt Simonson doing art on this book, because, of course, Walt Simonson is a legend, and Leinil Yu has kind of, to me, starting to look like more of a flash in the pan. So let him continue working with Mark Millar. That's fine with me. He can stay out of the rest of my business, because I'm not reading any Mark Millar comics anymore, like, ever. So anyway, but this was, you know, like I said, it's still brilliantly written and very well paced. It's a 4 out of 5. I take away a point for the art, because it's a damn near perfect issue. Just the art is not good. So this brings us to our indie segment. Now that we've not moved on from Marvel, we move on to Valiant. We have 2 of those this week. We're going to start off with Archer and Armstrong number 6. Now, I was not very pleased with issue number 5, because it seemed to kind of lose its very, for that issue, it really seemed to get too grim, and, you know, it didn't have the fun that, even when it is kind of dark and, you know, some bad shit happens, as it has, you know, with the killing of Sister Thomas Aquinas and everything like that in the kind of previous arc. You know, now we have, you know, Gilad and, you know, him chasing Aram all over everywhere so they can kill him because he let the Geomancer die and everything like that. But this book, basically what we have here, this is the sentences which I will use to describe it. Basically, an anti-global warming corporate mouthpiece has just become the new Geomancer, thanks to her being killed by a partnership between the 1% and the Boon, and being reborn via a hippie monkey. So, I mean, if that doesn't get you just a little bit interested in seeing how this book is turning out, then there's something wrong with you. You're missing kind of the point of comic books having fun. This was a terrific issue, incredibly fun read, very entertaining. It was very interesting all the way through to watch and to read this, this girl, this young woman who is obviously becoming this, obviously seems to be called from the very beginning, from the very opening of the book, the next Geomancer. And is kind of resisting it as much as possible. She does kind of get involved in what I would say almost as kind of a throwback to, I mean, we've seen this a lot, so I mean, it's not something new, but for more than anything, it kind of reminded me of Batman Returns, which of course is a film that I hate. But, with the kind of, the fate of Selina Kyle and that when she, listens in on Max Schreck's plans, or finds out Max Schreck's plans, and she gets killed because of that, and then becomes something else. That's kind of what happens here, but it's worked out much, 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 much more entertainingly. So we have, just a terrific story, and of course, Archer and Armstrong are there to fight the One Percenters. Because the book that they're using to help find the next Geomancer, so they can show Gilad that, okay, we have a new one now. You don't have to keep trying to kill us. And of course, Armstrong has some great lines, and just the use, whenever Obi Archer, he says, Jiminy Cricket. I mean, it's just hilarious fun. It's great stuff that Fred Van Lente's doing with this book. Did have a new artist, Manuela Lupacchino. Bravissimo, young lady, because this was a fantastic looking book too. And it got me back. It was like, from the kind of 3 out of 5 that I think I gave to the previous issue, this one was solid 4.5 out of 5. Very fun read, really exciting, really interesting, and of course, just wildly absurd at points. So trust me when I say that this is a book that when it's coming to trade, because I know that a lot of you are waiting for the Valiant trades, and I can understand that. So, but when they do come out, get them, because a lot of these books definitely deserve your money. So moving on, we have Bloodshot number 7. This, while being a good book, definitely above average, wasn't great. Wasn't even particularly that good. Because I wasn't a huge fan of the art in this issue. I didn't write down who the artist was. But what was kind of a thing there for me was that this is kind of a one-off issue. It's set 5 years in the past. We see Karetich and PRS and basically how they've been using Bloodshot over the years and kind of implanting the fake memories and having people pose as his wife temporarily just on the phone. And, they just take him out to complete a mission. And basically what we have here is we are kind of meeting what I would assume are some of the children captives that they have at present at PRS headquarters that he broke into in the last issue, which has me wondering, why in the fuck did they do this issue now as opposed to waiting or integrating this particular, bits of this story throughout maybe the arc as he goes up against these kids, because all of these kids are silents and they all have different abilities. Like one of them kind of obviously is a telekinetic. Another one can reanimate the dead, at least temporarily, or just kind of inhabit maybe some kind of latent telepathy, because he goes basically to the Philippines to what he believes is to rescue his daughter. And, of course, it's just an assault to get these kids out to be used by PRS. So, I'm very interested to see where this goes, but this just as kind of a one-off, it was interesting, of course, to read more about Bloodshot's past and what he has and how has been used and how he has been treated, and kind of, you know, we see where Koretich was kind of pulled off, and then somebody else comes back, someone else comes on to run Bloodshot. So a new handler, if you will. So, you know, maybe this is where Koretich ultimately went rogue against PRS. So, you know, it has a really interesting opening, you know, basically talking about, you know, the best way to motivate a soldier is to give them something to fight for, something personal. And that's how they've kept Bloodshot going for all the missions that he's done. So, this was a 3.5 out of 5. Like I said, I just feel that these bits, it either could have been smaller, more condensed, and put into the issue to keep the momentum going forward as far as this particular story, because we had a hell of a cliffhanger with number 6. Now I know that you know, these companies, they like to break up their story arcs into 6 issues so they can neatly fit them into a single trade. But whatever, you know, just if you're going to break it up like that, then at least pick it up kind of where you left off, because, you know, unless you've completely wrapped up the previous story arc. So again, 3.5 out of 5 for Bloodshot number 7. Jennifer Blood number 21. This book, it's largely ignored, but it's so good. I mean, you know, Al Ewing just really, you know, kind of taking all the Garth Ennis flavor that he possibly can and really fitting into this book very well. I was very apprehensive when Ennis left and Al Ewing took over, but of course, you know, when I found out that Al Ewing had been handpicked by Ennis to take over this book, some of my fears, and of course when I actually read his first issue, it's like, okay, my fears have abated, because he is running with this book in maybe a way that Ennis might not have. So that is, you know, or probably would have, but one way or the other, it's still fantastic. Because basically how we have this opening with this book is that we see that it opens with a trial beginning. And of course it is the trial of Jennifer Blood. How did we get here from the last issue? Because we have, you know, the last moment of the previous issue is, you know, her son going up to the drunken sheriff of this small town and saying, you know, I think my mom killed my dad. And that's how it left. So is that how we get there? No, because of course we do flash back to the aftermath of that, and we kind of see how Jen, who's now Jessica, is trying to maybe a little Black Widow-y kind of pull this local town cop into her embrace. Not the sheriff, but a younger man. You know, she seems to be definitely kind of playing up to him to maybe get, you know, another kind of stable male in their lives together. And of course, you know, but unfortunately that is not to be, because in this town now we have the new and improved ninjets, and of course, you know, their psychotic leader is speaking to them over you know, Bluetooth and everything like that, and basically, you know, so they found her, and you know, they are doing whatever they can to out her, and of course everybody who's after her is after her. You know, we have Pruitt is after her, we have, you know, these internal affairs people, the cops, everybody seems to be after Jennifer Blood. And, you know, it's all going to now become focused on this small town. And, you know, one of the things that Ewing is really doing is that he's keeping things, you know, still kind of absurdist and still kind of, you know, just holy shit moments, but he is definitely laying on the creep factor with how close to snapping at any moment it seems like Jennifer could be. Because, you know, even she has some very stern words for her son, because once she sees this cop in their home, the you know, the young man, the son, it basically seems like he's going to tell on his mother but she stops him real quick, and then after the cop leaves, basically a not too subtle warning that she just might kill him if she gives away her identity and tells what she has done. Now, whether or not that is actually something that she would do is up for debate, but Ewing definitely drives the point home that she could, and has been over the last several issues. As we see her, descending kind of slower, or actually, more and more into just kind of this insanity. So just a terrific story. Cuber Ball doing a great job on art here. One hell of a cliffhanger. I like the fact that they did bring back the diary, the journal, and so that we could have some of Jen's internal monologue, and it's very strong, and it just really keeps the suspense going, as well as kind of bringing the humor, bringing the humanity, which is something that is becoming more present as the book goes on, because at first it was just kind of absurd and fun and revenge driven. You had all of kind of like the standard hallmarks of a Garth Ennis, one of his more extreme books, like The Boys. But now with Ewing, we start to have more. Start to see more of a human side. Kind of the workaday type of aspects of some of these characters, which is really interesting, and is something that Garth Ennis does do really well. But I don't know if he would, again, if he had continued writing this book, I don't know if he would continue in this vein. So 4.5 out of 5 for Jennifer Blood, number 21. I am super anxious to find out what happens in this upcoming issue. So that leaves us now to move on to DC. And the first book we're going to talk about is Demon Knights, number 16. Yes, this is a book I still get. A lot of people have dropped it. Or a lot of people haven't been reading it. I'm still reading it, and I'm still enjoying it, because we have here, this is really the first issue for Robert Venditti, who, of course, also writes Exo Manowar, and was going to be writing the Constantine book when that eventually comes to the New 52, but no, that's going to be Jeff Lemire and Ray Fawkes. But what we have here is Venditti is, he's giving this book, he's breathing some new life into it. Is basically what we have here is it picks up 30 years after the issue 15, the fight in Avalon and everything like that, and, as they fought their way out of hell, and then, they go to Avalon, they have to fight there as well, and Jason Blood ultimately, gets recombined with Etrigan, thanks to Merlin, or no thanks to Merlin, if you might. We have this very strange opening in which Horsewoman is being chased as she's trying to communicate with the steeds that they're riding, but they're riding bison, she's running, she's going as fast as they can, but the bison they're just too fast. They just overtake the horse, and she gets thrown to the ground. Of course, as you know, or might not know, Horsewoman is a cripple. She does not have the use of her legs, which is why she's always riding the horse. But definitely very apparent in this issue is her spiritual connection to the horses that she rides. But she's also the same age. So, of course, we have, obviously, a magical group. For the most part, so some of them are not going to age, and she gets thrown into, she gets taken to the city, and she's thrown into this, kind of, dungeon, meeting her there is actually also Exoristos, who has also been chained, and Sir Yistin is also there. So someone seems to be wanting to kind of get the band back together here, but they don't seem to be doing it in a very nice way. So what exactly is going on here? and even Exoristos, talks about how she, has been trying to break out ever since, and actually keeps pulling the chains out of the walls. What they decided to do is they put Suryistin in the opposite cell and actually chained Suryistin's arms, because I can't say him or her anymore, because I could never tell if it's a him or a her. We know that it's a him/her. So I don't want to be sexist. So I'll just use the indefinite article. They. It. No, I won't say it. But I'll just call them, this person, Suryistin for the time being. Anyway. So yes, they've chained, their arms together. So if she tries to pull out again, she'll pull his arm, she'll pull Suryistin's arms off. I still do think of him as a him, so I might as well just call him him, because it is Sir after all. Anyway, but we do find, their kind of jailer, if you will, is very pissed about their handling, because they do eventually bring them before the person that has captured them, and that is Al-Jabir. And he's created this kind of, it's a Moorish society. I can't remember exactly where it is in Europe of the time. And I don't know if they were saying Moorish Rome, perhaps. I'm not sure. But, because that doesn't really make sense, does it? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. But it doesn't matter. But, it's basically a city of, built around science. The science of the time, of course. There are, kind of hot air balloons and things like that. And Al-Jabir has clearly aged. He is 30 years older. So the reason that he has kind of gotten the group back together here is that there is a huge threat that is facing all of Europe, and potentially all of the world, even Themyscira, and that is the rise of Cain. Yes, we do have, from the pages of I, Vampire, and I believe, and also Justice League Dark, before Jeff Lemire took over, we have Cain roaming around the medieval countryside and turning just about everybody he sees either into food or into vampires. And that even includes a fellow Amazonian of Exoristos. So, Jabir, he can't go with them because he's too old at this point. He's running the city now. So he needs to find somebody else to help. And could really only think of one person, at least one, that can help to reborn, to reband this Demon Knights and to be their big gun, or at least one of them. And that, of course, is Etrigan. But Etrigan has problems of his own, because we don't see Etrigan in this issue, because what we do see, though, is the home of the Vandals. And by Vandals, of course, we mean Vandal Savage. And something very serious apparently has happened in regards to, well, I mean, I shouldn't say has happened, because, I mean, it did happen, because, Etrigan did send Vandal Savage and all of the fellow Demon Knights to hell. So he's been paying Jason Blood back for the past 30 years. He has basically, in this really freaky final panel, he has no mouth, so he cannot speak the words, he cannot speak the rhyme, gone, gone, O form of man, rise the demon Etrigan. And so it's just, the human but immortal Jason Blood getting serially tortured by Vandal Savage for what may be the past 30 years. So we definitely have a rift in the group here. This was a fine issue. Bernard Chang makes some really pretty pictures here in this book. I'm really interested to see more Kane, since of course we're going to be losing a vampire in the not too distant future. So it behooves any book that has the opportunity to exploit any characters from iVampire, because it's going to be gone soon. So note to Jeff Lemire, please, please, please do Justice League Dark with Andrew Bennett as part of the team, because he can't just go away, because he's way too fucking good. Anyway, I'm not going to go on about that tonight, I promise. So this was a very solid 4 out of 5. It's nice to see something different, mixing up a little bit, seeing something new happening from Demon Knight. So those of you who have dropped it, I understand kind of why. But those of you who are more fans of the Magic books, you know who you are out there. Maybe try this one again, because it's a damn good book. It's never really let me down, I should say. Maybe in some places. But most of the Zero issues of just about every book kind of was a letdown in one way or another. Some of them were really good. Some of them were just kind of meh. So anyway, moving along, we move on to the Bat family. So we have, which we will start with, what I consider to be, as most people did this week from all the reviews that I read, kind of the least of the Bat family books that came out this week, and that is Batman and Robin number 16. Now, the main problem that I have with this issue, because I think otherwise this would have been a fucking brilliant issue, and definitely a pick of the week, but we know from reading Batman, we know from reading the however many other books that you are reading out there, because I know that Catwoman, Red Hood and the Outlaws, all these other kind of pseudo, either directly tied to the Bat family or just kind of pseudo Bat family books have been crossing over with Death of the Family, and what we have here is that we have Robin basically being told that the only way that he's going to survive is to kill Batman, who seems to have been Jokerized. His flesh is white, he's got the smile, and he's just laughing. Now, we know that this book, obviously, this is not Batman. So it does, unfortunately, take away from the emotional stakes that are at play here to a certain extent. Obviously, Robin still believes this is Batman, so these stakes are still there to a certain extent, again, but it's lessened because we know this is not Batman. So that does decrease, unfortunately, the stakes. But, however, from what really picks up the slack in this issue for the lack of those emotional stakes is, first of all, Peter Tomasi having some great character moments for both Robin and Joker. Well, since the only two real characters that are at play here are Joker and Damian. We have some brilliant work, some great character work. This is a great line that that Joker has about always wanting an aquarium, but that might piss off Aquaman because of all the Swedish fish he's eaten over the years and all that kind of stuff. And of course some great moments from Damian as well, as he's kind of whispering to who he believes is his father, that he doesn't want to fight, and that he has to fight Joker's influence. But this is a fight that Joker definitely wants to see happen, because of course his devout belief that all that the Robins, the Batgirls, the Nightwings, and all they do is drag Batman down further because he's a better solo act. And so, like I said, picking up the slack is not only Tomasi bringing these great character moments, but Patrick Gleason doing amazing art throughout this whole issue. It just looks fantastic. I mean, this might be some of my favorite work of Gleason's yet is in this issue. It is absolutely phenomenal. And, just there's this one panel where you see, Robin's head just kind of slightly in frame, but you see, the silhouette, the shadow, I should say, of Batman tackling him. So it was just moments like that. It was like, damn, the art is good in this book. But like I said, it's, once we do finally, of course, get the big reveal, where, Joker detonates a bomb in Batman's chest that kills him, of course, unmasks him. It turns out to be, the head of a, some kind of martial arts dojo who got in with the wrong crowd, obviously. So, and we have Robin still fighting off the effects of the Joker venom and still being somewhat defeated at the end. So, of course, next issue, what's going to happen? We don't know. So I have to still give this book a 4 out of 5 because, like I said, the lack of that emotional, lack of, the knowledge that this is not Batman, the emotional stakes have left somewhat. So otherwise, this would have been, again, this would have been a 5 out of 5. So that brings us to Batgirl, number 16. Now, while I was reading this issue, because we have a lot going on here, we have what seems to be the ceremony in which Joker intends to take Batgirl as his bride. And we have what this book really is right now is less of a story. It's not just a simple story of Batgirl finally being able to fight the Joker after all these years, but it is of, it's kind of a descent, if you will, kind of a almost very Joseph Conrad-esque kind of mind game that Gail Simone is playing with Batgirl right now. That she is not even an inch away from going over the edge and doing something that she swore she would never do. But, the Joker is just so horrifically evil that she knows that the world will be better off without him. And so, it is really kind of that descent into her own heart of darkness, of having to face her greatest fear, but coming out stronger and coming out as a more vicious, fiercer fighter and someone who is very, very willing to take the life of the Joker. However, amidst all of this brouhaha with that, we have, as the nuptials are about to begin, just before that, he does proclaim his intent to cut off all of her arms, to cut off her arms and legs and just kind of keep her, in kind of a very boxing Helena kind of sense. It was a really big throwback to the 90s, the very early 90s, and to a very bad film. Anyway, so we have, we have James Jr. seemingly coming to save the day. As he walks, he strides right in and says, the woman in the skating rink is safe. He comes in with 2 hand grenades and says, it's time to let her go. And of course, you know, this gives Batgirl all sorts of license to just wail the fuck out of the Joker. But of course, that is stopped by James Jr., who chloroforms her and basically says, no, I'm lying. Actually, she's still, you know, she's still being held hostage. So it's more, you know, so it's one of the best things about this arc right now is not just this, again, this kind of Conrad-esque descent for Batgirl, but also the fact that Simone is really, really using James Jr. to help tell this story, and to help tell it in a way that is totally unpredictable, because you never know how he's going to side or who he's going to side with. Is he going to appeal to the better angels of his nature? Is he just going to still be a psychopath? Is he, you know, what side is he going to end up on? Of course, as we find out here, he's very much on the side of himself. He does not want his mother harmed. That is for certain. But to what end? We don't know. This is something that he still wants to take revenge on, you know, or whatever in his own mind he considers to be, you know, some kind of sick revenge on his own mother. Is that why was that why he wants her free, and why he doesn't really, you know, care to do anything about his sister anymore? Because obviously we have something of a hangover from pre-New 52 with the brilliant, you know, the brilliant ending of Detective Comics, or you know, you know, I guess you could say the ending of Detective Comics, if you will, as far as its normal stretch, you know, its normal numbering, to give us, you know, and you know, Snyder and Francesco Francavilla and Jock really gave us that, you know, that brilliant ending. You know, one of my favorite issues of Batman of recent years, certainly one of my favorite arcs of Batman in the recent years. You know, is definitely, you know, still kind of there, but not there. Because we know who James Jr. is. We know what he's capable of, but we don't know what he's going to do, which is one of the things that I love Simone so much for, putting him as a very important player in this Death of the Family arc. So kudos to Simone. The only thing that keeps this from being a 5 out of 5 is the jarring transition of art again, because we have Ed Benes starting off the issue, and then at the halfway point it goes to Daniel Sampere, and so that was like, you know, it was like breaking the issue into two parts with two different artists. It doesn't work. I hope that someday somebody will figure this out, and just have one artist do the issue, unless it is someone whose style fits with the previous artist. So that makes it a 4.5 out of 5. It wasn't totally jarring. It didn't completely take me out, because the emotion, you know, because the stakes were so high, the emotion runs so heavily. And so we are granted, you know, we're still given a damn good issue. But again, that art does unfortunately make it lose a step. So let's move on then to our picks of the week, of which there are 3. First one I'm going to talk about is Daredevil number 22. This was a terrific issue. I love this issue. Some people did not like it that much. I can understand where they're coming from. Again, you know, just kind of this whole anti-Superior Spider-Man movement. But yes, what we have here I'm really happy that this was something that Ghost Critic had to say about. Sorry, it's a little chilly in here. Had to say about his about this book is that it felt kind of very much like a throwback to the old kind of Marvel team-up books of the 70s, where you have kind of the meeting is adversaries, and then of course teaming up to then save the day from the villain who does happen to pop in and make everything put everybody on in lockstep with each other. Because what we do have here is we have Superior Spidey coming to take down Daredevil, who is trying to make do with not being employed currently, because he left Foggy when after the whole debacle between the two of them kind of fell apart, and then Kirsty McDuffie, of course, acting on the information given to her by Foggy that Daredevil may very well be a menace, public menace. That Spider-Man does decide to act on that, but of course, as we saw in the previous issue, it says, "I will destroy him," and it's like, huh? That doesn't seem very Spider-Man-y. So, and of course, we have this first meeting between Superior Spidey and DD, and of course, as we know, they have been friends for a long time, he and Peter Parker, but something seems off to Daredevil. He is not quite sure what the hell is going on with Peter, why he's using some of the phrasing that he's doing, why he seems to be very quiet, very uncharacteristically quiet. And even asks, where's the quipping? And then, of course, he's, then, Superior Spidey kind of fakes this, quip, calling him Horned Head. It's like, you've always called me Hornhead. And that, of course, is, when the two of them are kind of at their, at the peak where they are, really fighting each other. Of course, that is when Stiltman arrives to, as we see in Matt's internal monologue, we see that, these are the three, these are four words that I never thought that I'd say. It doesn't really say them, of course, but thank God for Stiltman. Which is technically 5 words, but one of them is hyphenated, so it's still, I guess, 1 word. Anyway. And Stiltman has gotten some upgrades. And they seem to be based on the tech of a certain lardy octopus-themed villain, which he does say, where Daredevil does say that, Doc Ock, that tub of lard. And then in the next panel, you see, of course, you just see Spider-Man's mask, of course, and and then Daredevil asks him, "Why are your teeth grinding?" And it was at that moment where I said to myself, "Why?" The first thing that shocked, surprised, and amazed, and just said, "Okay, this book is brilliant." Why can't Dan Slott write Superior Spider-Man as well as Mark Waid can? Especially when he's just doing a guest appearance. Because everything that Waid does with Superior Spider-Man in this issue is flawless. It is absolutely wonderful. Because it is hitting on all the questions that are bound to come up in the people that are close to Peter Parker. What the hell is going on with Peter Parker? Why is he acting this strangely? It seems very out of character for him, and Daredevil knows he which is why he's fearing that there's some kind of mind control at work. But everything reads as Peter Parker, smells like Parker, heartbeats like Parker, so what gives? So this is something that he is going to just kind of have to brush off for the interim and say, after they've finished their fighting and saying, okay, we're both good, right? Yeah, we're good. And so Daredevil splits, and he goes to make an apology. Of course, we first think that it's going to be to Kirsty, but of course it ends up being to Foggy, as he presents Foggy with a bacon and Limburger cheesecake that has been dubbed the Foggy because there's no one else in the city that would actually eat that. And we have this great scene where Foggy and Matt kind of flesh it out. They really kind of talk about what some of the issues were and why Matt has been playing his cards so close to the chest is because being blind, while having all these enhanced senses, being able to do all these incredible things, he's still blind. And he still has to deal with his blindness. And sometimes that means that keeping some of the secrets that he keeps gives him a certain amount of power. It empowers him, really, is what I think he even says, is that it doesn't make him seem normal, but it does give him sort of an edge up and makes him still feel a little bit better than someone who just has all their five senses totally intact. And of course, this is where Foggy drops the bomb. And again, as people have rightly stated, this is a subject matter in which Mark Waid, he is far too smart of a writer to write something in like this, to seemingly come out of nowhere and have it be kind of a cheap shock for shock's sake. He's a smarter writer than that. There's something developing here. Where it's going from here, I don't want to spoil it. You've probably all read it by now, but for those of you who haven't, I'm not going to say what it is. But again, this is something obviously, to me, very personal. And I'm kind of hoping that this turns out differently because it is intensely personal for me. And I don't want to see Foggy go through something like this. Because the thought of that, is kind of terrifying. So, where do we go from here? But I feel with 100% certainty that, again, Waid is not going to just mock this up for, like a cheap gimmick or a cheap shock. This isn't going to be that. This is going to be something that will affect this book and will be dealt with seriously and will be dealt with well. So I gotta admire Waid's balls for doing that, and I just admire the hell out of this issue because, first of all, it's again amazingly well written. Waid just totally bringing his A game, especially having to deal with Superior Spider-Man. And Chris Samnee makes this book look so gorgeous, and just so, at times, just his art style is something that you almost can't really make heads or tails of at first, but once you start to see the beauty in it, then it all starts to come together, and you see why these two make such a great fucking team. And I'm sad that Chris Samnee's not going to be doing the next Rocketeer book. And I don't know how much longer he's going to be on Daredevil. Hopefully it's going to be for a really long time, though, because, damn, he does some great work. So, yes, a 5 out of 5 for Daredevil number 22. So we've got two books slugging it out for the top spot. And this is where I am going to go contrary to pretty much all of the other reviews that I've seen online. And that is the runner-up by a hair is Saga number 9. This hurt. I mean, this was really a tough one, because Saga number 9 is about as good of a book as you could hope to read. It's just fantastic. It has, despite the fact that Marco, Alana, Hazel, none of them are in sight of this book at all. This is a book that is very centric on the will and on this new player onto the board, the player of Gwendolyn, who, of course, as we know, this is Marco's former fiance. And we begin with the will having what starts out as, to me, I was like, wait a second. This is actually really awesome. The Stalk. She's alive. Great. And it's just a dream. And, of course, it begins wonderfully, but it ends very terribly for the will. Of course, he wakes up, and there's Gwendolyn to basically say, this is what I'm doing. I'm tracking this, I'm tracking these people, this couple. One of them, is like me, is, from Wreath, of course, the will susses out that, who she is, and that she doesn't, she's not buying in, that she doesn't buy into the tripe of, of what, kind of the political, rhetoric that she's spewing, and that she determines that, that he determines that there's something more personal at stake. And of course she says, absolutely not. And who do we have that chimes in but Lying Cat? Lying! And, the will says something to the effect of, like, hell, even a dead dog could have spotted that one. And so we have, basically what the will is demanding of her is that, he pays her, that she pays him very, very well to keep assisting in this, because, he doesn't have his contract anymore with the robot prince, and he wants to get Slave Girl off of Sextillion. And of course, Lying Cat lying as far as the amount of money that he needs. There's that brilliant exchange where it's, where she says, how have you not murdered that cat by now? And of course he's like, I don't know myself, or something to that effect. I mean, just some brilliant piece of Vaughn writing. And Gwendolyn uses her guile to basically get Slave Girl, basically seem like she herself is a Mooney, and that anybody who has this violates all sorts of could be just politically could be very bad for Sextillion business. So they arrange to have to get her back, and of course Mama Sun smells a trap, and of course the trap is sprung from these very, very strange looking aliens, and then we have the moment with the lance, and Gwendolyn doing some weather casting, and basically just some all-around badness, but it ends up well for the will, because he finally does get Slave Girl out. But unbeknownst to the will and to Gwendolyn is that Slave Girl has some abilities of her own that could very well conceivably take all of them on a collision course. and I'm talking about with Marco and Alana and the in-laws, presumably. But damn, I mean, this book, again, fantastic from beginning to end. These great, beautiful character moments, gross stubble. I mean, just, moments like that. And I said this in my comments on Ghost Critic's most recent vlog, is that if Brian K. Vaughan doesn't realize what he has in Lion Cat and doesn't dedicate an entire issue to the story of Lion Cat, I'm going to be kind of disappointed. Because Lion Cat is probably one of my favorite supporting characters, ever at this point in time. Because Lion Cat is just so fucking awesome. I mean, I don't care if it's just Lion Cat going around tearing people's faces off and just kind of sussing out lies, but it's just, he's too awesome. He's too awesome. He's too funny, and it just, and the things, the way that they use him or do not use him in this particular issue it's just brilliant. I mean, it's just a brilliant issue. Of course, Fiona Staples just, crushing it on art. I mean, the fantastic work that she keeps doing from time to time with all of these great character designs and all these great moments, and from the opening page with the two men this time who have heads in their torsos and just the legs, and of course one of them is wielding kind of this on Sextillion, just this kind of almost like this kind of giant dildo club or something like that. I mean, it's just insane, and I love it. It's so fucking awesome. But Lion Cat, almost a character that I would say deserves its own book, or deserves at least a spin-off, something, maybe a limited series, I don't know, but absolute 5 out of 5 for Saga number 9, and like I said, just a hair away from being in the top spot, because the top spot ultimately does go to Batman number 16. The reason for this decision that I've made is that because it's Batman, because it's Snyder, because it's Capullo, because it's Joker, because it's Death of the Family. This has me... Saga is usually the week that it comes out, because it always seems to be coming out against Batman, which may not be the greatest sales move for Image, but whatever. I am perfectly happy to have at least what I can usually count on to be 2 brilliant books in the same week. And also, Saga has gone up against Daredevil a lot as well, so that has always kind of been a hard sell. But usually, it's always been Saga edging out over Daredevil. But in this particular case, like I said, because it's Batman, because to me, personally, Batman means a lot. So, to keep going with this story, I'm much more personally invested. Okay, I won't say much more, but more personally invested in this book. So we have Batman's entrance into Arkham Asylum and this very brilliant first page in which we seem to see something that ends up being very different. Again, this is one of those, but I can't describe every single thing that goes on in it because there are so many moments. This is basically, it's a mythical night, it's a dark night within a mad King Arthur's court, is really what this is. We have, the dancers, we have the inmates, the Galahads and Gawains, and with their kind of flaming clubs, all looking to do, horses on fire running through you have Mr. Freeze, and you have Clayface, and you have Scarecrow, and you have Batman fighting through this gauntlet, and it is. Here's the thing, and again, some of you have, at least one of you has seen this, as far as my commentary on this issue, because some of you had issues with the fact that he seems to go through some pretty potent members of his rogues gallery with incredible efficiency. Now, we do have to harken back, at least for a bit, to the very first issue of this series of Batman with Snyder and Capullo, where we see that he takes down pretty much all of the inmates of Arkham with a minimum amount of fuss in a very short period of time. So, I mean, that fully establishing Batman as the badass, which is essentially the intent of this whole series, of this whole event, if you will, of Death of the Family, where Batman is the king. There is no one that can stop him. And the more laser focused that he gets, which is exactly what he is here, is that he is 100% laser focused on getting to the Joker so that he can free Alfred. And, of course, take Joker down. That he can, with a minimum amount of fuss, he can, use the various countermeasures that he can get for fighting people like Clayface and like Mr. Freeze and like Scarecrow. Not that the Scarecrow is a big fighter anyway, but just, the fact that he knows enough that, okay, he's going to wear the respirator, he's going to climb up and just punch him in the face, that he has some kind of, device that will burn through Mr. Freeze's, his exosuit, and that he ends up, of course, using the freeze ray on Clayface. Batman punches a horse in the head to stop him from charging. Just how quickly he gets through all of these to get to the meat of this issue, which is, of course, where we see this proverbial sword in the stone. We see this throne, and we see, of course, the king's mad jester, as portrayed by the Joker. Of course, his, Two-Face is kind of the advocate, the law. The bishop being the Penguin, because Gotham's truest religion is vice, and the Riddler as being the king's kind of right hand, because he is the one that tests Batman mentally. He was the one that keeps him sharp. And we have this, of course, this proxy Justice League of just these normal people dressed like Superman, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern, and Aquaman, to pull this electrified chainsaw out of a stone. And if they can do it, they'll live. But of course, there's the electrical charge goes through it on a random setting, so you don't know whether it's safe to touch or whether it will kill you. Of course, this is, again, just all part of the Joker's master plan. And once Batman does finally get into this room where, the throne room is, then they shut down a gate, and Batman's just like, hey, I don't care. Go ahead. I'm just waiting for the police to get here. You can keep yourself in the cage for as long as you want. He's cut the cable that'll electrify the chainsaw, so he knows that's not going to happen again, because unfortunately the Superman does bite it. But but then, of course, we see the Joker still has the upper hand, because as we see And I know that Ghost Critic did mention something about this, because when you do have crossovers of this nature, if you're not reading every title, you can miss things. Now, I don't read Red Hood and the Outlaws, and I won't until James Tynion IV starts writing it again, or starts writing it for the first time, because I'm really anxious to see what he'll do with that book, because I haven't liked anything that I've seen of it so far. And I'm not reading Nightwing anymore, because I just didn't really like the way that book was shaping up at all. So, but Nightwing, Batgirl, Robin, and Red Hood and Red Robin are all seemingly at the Joker's mercy, and certainly Batgirl and Robin definitely are. Nightwing, Red Hood, and Red Robin, I have no idea. But more than likely, yes, something bad has happened to them. So this has to give him pause, and this is where Batman has to take his throne, which of course is an electric chair. Then we do get the backup story. Now, next issue, of course, is the finale, the grand finale of Death of the Family. We do have the B story, again, written by Tynion and Snyder, with art by Jock, in which we do get the aftermath of Batman sitting in that chair and kind of allowing himself to get a little fried. And here we have kind of the real interaction is between Joker and Two-Face, because obviously we've seen him deal with Penguin and Riddler already, but now we have, how did Two-Face get involved in this? And, we see what Two-Face wants to do. He's just like, screw it, let's just kill him right now and be done with it. And of course, Joker's like, nah, no way. Because, again, there is this twisted symbiotic relationship that the Joker feels to Batman, that the only reason that the Joker truly exists is because Batman is out there. And to kill him would be counterintuitive for someone like the Joker. Because without Batman, who's he going to play with? Nobody. And, so we see how he has duped, how he has duped Penguin and Riddler, who's the only one that could figure kind of the way out of the trap that he eventually puts Harvey in. And, basically the Joker is holding all the cards. So, but the one thing that I also do want to talk about in this issue is there is a incredibly horrific moment in which we do see literally a living tapestry where Joker has taken, I'm assuming, guards, I think he actually even say that, and sewn them together, they're still alive, and painted this tapestry on them of some of their greatest hits together, if you will. For instance, the very famous portrait of Batman carrying Jason Todd's lifeless body, and some other moments of the past between Joker and Batman, and they're just it's just hanging from the ceiling. They're all hanging upside down, and they're just kind of chanting "Hail the Bat King," and it amps up the freakazoid factor, to 11. I mean, it is truly horrifying and very, very unnerving. And that's one of the things that pretty much every writer of the books that I've read in the Bat family has brought to bear with the Jokers. They've all made him incredibly frightening. I mean, Snyder has done it better than Tomasi or Simone for the most part. But, I mean, shit. I mean, this is just... Oh my god. Snyder, of course... What can I say about that guy? What can I say that I haven't already said? He brings it. I mean, Other than the Zero issue, I don't think there's been an issue of Batman that I've given less than a 4.5 out of 5 to. Pretty much all of them have been either books of the week, runners up for books of the week, or they've pretty much all been 5 out of 5. So I mean, this is a classic run, and deservedly so. Capullo doing some excellent work here. There was only one panel that I thought was kind of off, which is where Batman is kind of diving down, and you see, there's kind of a swoosh movement where you see one of the guards, their face protection plate is shattering, but then you see, and then another one's getting hit, but then he has his hand, Batman's fists just seem to be in strange places for the actions that they've just done. I mean, obviously the work is incredibly dynamic. The coloring by FCO Placencia is just amazing. And they just work this to death. But this is the one thing that has tied all three of these titles together this week, is what is under the platter. What is it? I mean, it's literally you, the reader, me, the reader, have been cast as Brad Pitt in Seven. We are screaming, "What's in the box? What's in the box?" Because we don't know. We don't know. The Joker knows. Now Two-Face and Penguin do. But we don't know. And the fear, of course, is that it has something to do with Alfred. And that scares the living hell out of me. Because if there does end up being a death in this family, it is very conceivable that it is Alfred Pennyworth. So, yeah, 5 out of 5 for Batman number 16, and ultimately, Book of the Week. So, that's it. We're done. We're only an hour and 37 minutes into it, so I'm going to thank you again for watching. Thank you for sticking with me for as long as you have. If this is your first time here, obviously you know that, I shouldn't say obviously, but you should know that all of my videos are this long. So if this is your type of thing, strap in, hang on tight, because when I do a week's worth of reviews, it's going to be long, because I read a lot of books. So thanks for watching. I love you all. As always, it's joy to come back and finally get my new comics bitches back on the tube here. So welcome back. It's great to have you back on board. It's great to be back on board. And thank you so much for watching. And tune in maybe later this week. Who knows? I might have something interesting to say or whatever. Or maybe just wait until next week when we do get another episode of New Comics Bitches. So, thanks for coming out. Thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe. Comments. Like it, dislike it, comment, criticize, complain, whatever. Just interaction, people. That's what it's all about here. So, again, I'm James Donnelly. This has been the Shadow Gallery. Thank you so much for watching. And, as always remember to stay in the shadows.